Good afternoon, and welcome to the National Black MBA Conference and Career Fair. It's our 50th year celebration where we are celebrating visionaries. Today is about you asking questions during our new Ask Me session. It's the first time we've done this, and I'm proud to say that we have Wayne White from Cisco. Wayne will answer all of your pressing questions around careers in technology. Remember, our hashtag is Black MBA 2020. Again, that's Black MBA 2020. And this session is sponsored by Cisco. Wayne is a 20-year Cisco veteran, and currently he serves as Senior Technical Program Manager for the Foundational Security Technologies team within the Security and Trust organization. He manages programs for 3 engineering teams, and he has been an engineering team lead as well. He develops organizational strategies and coordinates priorities for the organization's program portfolio. He's also a member of the SNTO Cultural Board. Their responsibility is to drive cultural change within the SNTO organization. Now, Wayne also has certifications, which we can also talk about during this Ask Me session. So without further ado, Wayne, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Glad for you to be here, and it's good to meet you. And so I'm going to ask you a few questions to kick things off, and then we'll wait for the audience to also have questions. So audience participation is super important, but if you have questions, feel free to post them, and we'll make sure that we get to them live. So Wayne, tell us a little bit about Cisco.
Well, if you come to think about it, everyone has some sort of device, whether it's a wireless device, they have a device in their home, whether it's a laptop, whatever it be. 9 times out of 10, eventually you're going to go over Cisco equipment. So basically, we connected just about everything. And so we are telecom, networking, you name it, we're in it, and anything security-wise as well. And so we do it all.
No, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your role as a Senior Technical Program Manager. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, the day-to-day is meetings, and more meetings.
There you go.
But in all seriousness, it can range by day. Being that I'm also an Agile practitioner in program management, I lead some of the Agile ceremonies, if you will, where it comes to stand-ups, where we're prioritizing what we need to do for the following week, demos by the team, demonstrating the things that they've created. I have several meetings with my manager, senior leadership. I mentor a lot of people as well, so I have a lot of one-on-ones as well. So depending on the particular day, I'm involved in those activities and also involved as far as things that look at the organization as a whole. I participate in those type of discussions as well.
No, that's great. So you mentioned Agile. So in technology, and I work in technology too, so I think we're great to have this conversation together.
Yes.
But you have typical waterfall projects, and then you have Agile. So I'm just curious your take on that, because there are different circumstances where I truly believe that either process, if you will, are good suited for those types of projects.
Well, like you said, it depends on the project, but for my organization, we've totally transitioned from waterfall to Agile. More specifically, we use Kanban, and we do a lot of, instead of pushing the work, if you will, we actually pull the work. And so basically what is there, and once someone completes their assignment, they can go pull the next thing right off the board. So it helped increase our efficiency. It also helped increase what we do for the customer and making sure that's what the customer wants. Being in software, a lot of times back in the days when we had these extensive programs, a customer would describe what they want, but they didn't get a chance to look in to see if we're actually building what they want. And sometimes they didn't know what they wanted. So by the time 6 months comes and we're like, oh, here's what we have, Mr. Customer, that's not what I asked for. So now with Agile and this iterative process that you have, and you can have this inspection coming in as you go through the process, it's a better case that you're actually building what the actual customer wants.
Yeah, and what I heard from you, which I think is very important, is the customer comes first. And what you're doing within, Combine or Agile in this case is that you're putting them first and letting them get a glimpse into what you're producing. Because if you go back to traditional waterfall, right, you could build something
Mhm.
for a year and then technology changes, the times change,
Yes.
and then what you worked on could come or be obsolete. So I think that's spot on. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is how did you get introduced to technology in the way in which you're working in it today?
It's an interesting question. I was one of those kids. I was a tinkerer. I tinkered with a lot of stuff. It was kind of funny. I took one of my remote control cars apart, took a milk carton, cut it in half, threw those components in there, mounted the engine underneath, and made a remote control boat out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I used to fix things around the house and took some electronics classes in school. So basically, my degree is in electrical engineering. And so just a lot of things around that and just being interested. My first passion was around power engineering. So basically, the utilities industry. I worked in that for a little while. And then telecom was my other. And at that time, I got involved with local technical company, telecom company. And as everything advanced and everything went data, because I'm a voice guy initially, and it went data, and I'm like, I have to be part of that because I see that's where the future is going. I transitioned from electrical into software because you see all the hardware disappearing over time. And so let's face it, I'm also thinking about being able to survive in the industry, right? You
Right.
want to you want to be there so that you can survive this industry. And so I didn't get here for 20 years for nothing, right? Make sure you're watching the trends, making sure you're staying abreast of what's going on. And so I found the things that kind of interest me. I was fortunate enough to be in an organization that transitioned into this security organization. Uh, what it used to be way back when was a government group.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in government, a lot of things are around security anyway. And just being able to transition from that group into this organization was a natural fit for me.
Yeah, one thing that stuck with me real quick before I get into this question is the fact that you said when you were younger, you started tinkering with things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just so important because, like myself, I did the same thing, and that's how I got introduced to technology. So, Chandra has a question. Welcome, Chandra. Her question is I've seen Scrum applied outside of tech development and used in marketing and other areas of the enterprise. Do you find that this adaptation is useful or causes more confusion?
It's all about how it gets introduced. It's about how it's introduced and how it's executed. From my vantage point, one of the biggest learnings that I had was you have to do what's comfortable for the team. And I think a lot of the mistakes that we make in Agile is that we try to put something on them prescribed. We're not trying to determine what's best for them and what's best for the environment. My teams initially were Scrum, and we ran into challenges in Scrum, especially when you're going from waterfall to Agile and you're dealing with a lot of people that are set in their ways and don't want to do the change because they see it just changing for change's sake. You have to be able to convince them where the value is. Because I was one of those people while I was engineer. And one of the things that I felt was so great about it is that we could stop things that are not going right. It's just like we were talking about earlier, right? If you're doing waterfall, you might go 6 months to a year and it could be all wrong, or you need to re-engineer what you have at the end. Whereas as you get in these inspection or whatever iteration schedule it is, you're able to do the correction. Uh, and the main thing about Agile, whether it's Scrum or whatever process within Agile, keep it as simple as possible because a lot of people make it more difficult because it can be as simple as post-it notes. And so whatever environment it's in, whether it's technology, marketing, business, there's room for it. It's just all about doing what's comfortable for your team and making sure it makes sense for what you're doing.
Yeah, one thing I heard is keep it simple. I mean, that's powerful. Powerful.
Yeah.
And keeping things simple can be difficult, right? I mean, it's not the easiest thing to
Yes.
do to boil things down until it's super simple, but that's powerful. So Patrick has a question. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your team's workload? We'll start there.
So our workload really didn't change a lot. We're kind of a research and development group within the security group. So a lot of our work has gone on as it's been going. So a lot of things that we would have are actual sort of virtual anyway because of the amount of automation that we use, and then the virtual environments that we were using. So it didn't impact us as much. Matter of fact, more so, it probably does affected one, does how we're doing things mentally and coming to work. That has been a bigger challenge. Now, as far as myself as a program manager, my meetings have exploded. That's one of the things that we hear a lot of is that because you don't have someone that you can go around the corner to and talk to, now it's just like, oh, let me drop a half-hour meeting on your calendar. Oh, let me drop this. And so we're talking a lot more virtually. We're utilizing a lot of our tools that we have available. Our WebEx teams, our WebEx meetings. So we're utilizing all the virtual tools that we have. And so that is helping us through. But I think the biggest thing is just the communication aspects of the business, not necessarily as far as the workload.
Got it. And that was a two-part question. So the other side of this was, are there any new innovations being explored considering the increased use of virtual communications platforms?
Being that we're in security, we're just keeping everything focused on our actual roadmaps that we have, because our technology that we develop are getting put into other products. And so whatever their roadmap is, we want to make sure that we're actually in tandem with them. One of the things is now we know more people will probably move to the cloud. And so we're looking at what other places we can play in the cloud as well, as far as what the technology that we actually develop.
Now, one question I want to ask you, and I get this question myself a lot, is like if you had 15 seconds, how would you explain to someone that has no idea what the cloud is, what it is?
Basically, think about it as your computer. Instead of you having a computer right in front of you, that computer is in somebody else's facility, and that you give access to who you want to give access to that computer that's sitting out in that actual area. So basically, it's your computer virtualized sitting in somebody else's location. I think it's like the simplest way I can think of it.
No, it makes absolute sense to me. And I want to remind everybody, this is the Ask Me session. So feel free to ask whatever questions you'll have, and we'll try to get them answered. So Chandra, here's her question. What are some of the emerging technologies you recommend that anyone considering a career in tech consider as potential specialties?
Me personally, I think anything related to security, because everything needs to be secure. Because now with the Internet of Things, we have to be running security on anything. You see it as one of our competitors, had people breaking into their stuff. Or if we have, I'm just trying to think of some things because I don't want to call anybody out. But so you have these things, right? When you're in a virtual environment, and you're starting to figure out that you have more vulnerabilities than you think. Think about some of the major banks, right? And that people have been spoofing or things of that nature, or for those who get these emails, right? And you're the one that mistakenly clicks on that link, and now you got some ransomware on your computer, and now you're trying to figure out what are you going to do. So basically, these are just simple examples of why security is so important. Things in the 5G arena. 5G is an emerging technology. Just trying to figure out where you want to be in that. One thing our company, especially under our old CEO, we used to think is we don't have any technology religion. Basically, what is best for the customer and what's going to help them and what they need to do is what we need to be looking at. As you see back in the days, a lot of telecoms fell to the side because they were not wanting to move. They were not wanting to do what was best for the customer. Also, if you look at disruption, if you look at someone like Uber, right? No one thought that people would jump in a stranger's vehicle that doesn't have taxi on the side of it, right? That's a disruptive technology and is a disruptive business case. So that's why I kind of like being a little bit general, but staying abreast and then what interests you and what you'll have some passion around to make you successful.
Yeah, and I heard security and 5G. And real quick, security is interesting because a lot of individuals may think that, oh, I just have to put antivirus on my computer and I'll be covered. But it's also thinking about well beyond that. Like you may need to figure out how do you secure other touch points where people can infiltrate your systems, because at the end of the day, in my point of view, is that it's about protecting your customers as well. So I think that's completely spot on. So everyone, we're with Wayne White from Cisco. Ask whatever question you have. Chandra, you are on a roll.
I'm
Your
telling
next
you.
question, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, no, it's awesome.
Her question, with the increasing importance of AI and machine learning outside of the matriculated programs, what are other ways to gain experience and knowledge about these growing areas?
Read, read, and read. Read, attend different conferences, see what type of certifications are out there, see if where you're at now, is it some way that AI and machine learning can be implemented. Being that my background was test engineering, one of the things that they're looking in the test engineering field is like, all right, how can we automate and how can we get it to the point where these systems learn how to test as it goes along? Basically, it's all about software, right? It's all about coding. And so I would learn those things. The most interesting thing for me is I was at a diversity conference last year and they were talking about AI and machine learning in diversity and in HR. So that just gives you a lens into look for areas where these things can play a part and try to see who's actually working in those areas. Mentorship. For me personally, I've even reached out to people on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, I see that you are involved in this particular area. Do you mind setting up maybe a half-hour conversation so I can learn more about what you do? And you will be surprised that people will answer and they'll set that call up and have a conversation with you. So those are just a few things I think can help you in that area.
If you think about us being virtual these days, I mean, there is a huge opportunity for people to network because you don't have to drive the 30 or 40 minutes to get downtown anymore. You can schedule a meeting and take it in the convenience of your home using platforms like a WebEx as an example. So I think that's completely spot on. So once again, everybody, you can ask Wayne any question you have about technology. This is our Ask Me session. One thing I'm going to ask you, which I know we were speaking about briefly before, are certifications. So if you think about certifications and degrees, some people have asked, right, do you need to have a degree to work in technology? And the same goes for certification. So I'm curious your take on degree versus certifications or both.
Yeah, so part of it, one, is where you end up working. Some companies may value a degree more than others. What you're going to find now is because of the shortage of technology talent, we're looking everywhere. I literally know of two people. One has an English degree and went to a coding school and is employed with us. And then another person I know who has a history degree and they're sitting there as a director in a technology company, but they got a ton of certifications in technology. So it's about who values what and what you're attempting to do. So if it comes into pure coding or software development, certifications can get you there. A lot of times people have to get certifications or retraining just to keep up. If you think about it, 20 years ago, when whatever language was popular then is antiquated and a dinosaur now. So what are the people in the industry doing? If they can't get their hands on, what are they doing? They're getting some sort of certification. They're going to get some type of coding class. They're getting some training. So always continue to train, learn what's going on, learn what's important to the actual I saw this question pop up and it threw me off. That's going to be an interesting question. But, as you continue to go through and just figure out those different ways. And like I said, certifications, like in our technical assistance center, or now our customer advocacy group, these guys got these amazing certifications, none of which I desire to get. But our CCIE,
honest.
Yeah, I mean, like that CCIE is like the doctorates in networking. If you have your CCIE, you pretty much can write your ticket anywhere because it's respected in the industry, hands down. So that's just an example.
No, that's great. I mean, you said something that I think is just spot on, is that there are certain certifications just respected. And that certification you just mentioned is one of them. So that's powerful. So Rebecca has a question, and I know it kind of just came out of nowhere, but let's get to it. So her question is, how do I make my resume stand out when applying to Cisco?
And that's why I was like, when I just saw that, I was like, oh, you might get me with a stumper. One thing I would definitely say is get connected with people. That's one thing, to get connected, come to our events and things of that nature. And then also, this is more so just for any type of position, right? Look for those things that are going to actually make you stand out. What is going to differentiate you from the next person? What you will find is everybody's a hard worker. At least the ones we hire. Everybody's a hard worker. Everybody's great at their job. So what's going to make you stand out a little more? Now, in your case, being that you're coming from the outside, do you have the skills that we're looking for first and foremost? That's one checkbox. What's something that you think that is valuable? And the thing is when people are gifted, we take for granted some of the skills that are valuable that can differentiate us from others. I've fallen victim to that. It's like, there's a couple of things that come natural to me and I don't even think about it. And then people are like, oh, that is great. We thank you for being able to do that for us. And I'm like, really? That was just easy. And so we have to recognize the greatness that we have within ourselves and then understand what our value is. So we're able to show our value prop on top of meeting at least some of the qualifications in that position that you're applying for, and then highlighting those assets that you can bring on top of that. I think that'll be one of the things that help you to stand out.
That's awesome. That's really, really great advice. I appreciate that. Next question from Patrick. How useful do you think obtaining technical certifications are if you are a leader in another function, or in this case, other functional areas of business, such as marketing or accounting?
Depends what you want to do with it. I mean, it's just like an advanced degree. What do you hope to accomplish with it? So like you have a lot of engineers and they're like, oh yeah, I want to get an MBA. Okay, what do you plan to do with that MBA? Are you getting a degree just to get another degree? Or are you trying to get a degree to move into a different area of the business and you know it's necessary to get there? So the question I would ask is, what do you plan to do with that particular certification? And because when you say technical certification, there's a bazillion of them, right? And it really depends on what you're attempting to do with it. So it's always about what you're going to do with it. And if you're just getting it to get it, it may not be a lot of value in it.
No, I completely agree. And getting a degree just to get it can take some time, right? Yes. So time is valuable, right? So I agree with that 100%. Next question from Chandra. As a 20-year veteran of Cisco, how would you compare your career trajectory in this environment against your colleagues? We'll start there.
So my story is a little different. I always aspired to be more than just a test engineer or a test manager. You know, my aspirations were more on the director side of things. But when you interact with different people who have not seen people, especially when it comes from the test side of the business, because what you'll find in the software development industry, especially way back when, sometimes test engineering wasn't valued as much. Now, our company values it a lot, but a lot of people just tended to stay in the test silo where I wanted to go beyond that and go outside of that. So for me, it's been a little more difficult. So what I've had to do is actually increase my networking outside of my organization and learn how the rest of the business actually works to try to help me to get where I want to go. I did a lot of things outside of my actual job role, my day-to-day job role. It's like I co-led one of our EROs. I was business coordinator for inroads. I actually participate in a lot of give back events, stretch assignments. So when I did all of these type of things, this what helps to elevate. And on top of getting the certifications, I had one of my colleagues say, "When you have more certifications than anyone I know." And my response was, "You guys can tell me to go home at any given time. So I need to be able to bounce back as quickly as possible."
A game. I mean, that I completely agree with you. A game. Her second part of the question was, how have they embraced diversity in their corporate environment?
Well, if you have not seen, we have gotten very serious about diversity. Our company is putting their money where their mouth is. If you all have a chance, please go out to our website. You can see our social justice initiative. In that social justice initiative, you can see all of the ways that we are really going about being inclusive and being diverse within our company. We recognize that over time, it's a lot of things that we didn't get right, but there's a lot of things that we got right as well. And so now, especially when it comes to Black employees, they are really stepping their game out. And like I said, you can find more information on the Cisco website. And we did an announcement, I think it was Tuesday. Actually, it was internal Tuesday, so it may not came out on Tuesday, but Wednesday for sure. And you can see all the things that we're looking at doing now.
I appreciate you sharing that. So, next question from Brooke. How important is mindset when it comes to your profession? Start there.
Mindset is very important. For me personally, is really, like you were saying earlier, A game, right? What am I going to do? One of the things I had to learn, especially with the company that I'm at, I'm with the best and the brightest in the industry. So sometimes you can come from a situation, as they used to say, you're the big fish in the little pond. Then you go to the lake or the ocean and find out you're not the big fish anymore. That's kind of my experience when I first came to Cisco. And so you have to have a strong mindset to recognize the fact that it's not that your game isn't strong. No, your game is strong because that's how you got there. But you need to be able to continue to go forward, continue to grow yourself, and continue to be a better version of yourself. For me personally, my actual motto is I don't compete against anybody, I compete against myself, because I have a certain set of gifts. I can't compare myself to Mary, I can't compare myself to Bob, because they have their own giftings. I have my gifts. What I'm going to do is get my gifts to stand out and not only serve me, but serve the company as well.
Purposeful. I appreciate that. Second part to Brooke's question. Is it better to be more analytical and focused or in the moment and flexible?
I wouldn't have an or. I wouldn't have an or. I think everything is important in its given space. Sometimes it's going to be important to be very analytical. Sometimes it's going to be good for you to be flexible. That was a teachable moment for myself. Sometimes I got so inflexible, I missed opportunities to be better, or I missed opportunities to make my team better. And so when you get to the point where you can be a little more flexible, like we talked about agile and not being prescriptive. I was very prescriptive when I first did the agile transition, and it met a lot of resistance and created a lot of headache. But once I started getting to the point of understanding what the team wanted and basically give them an actual guardrail, if you will, giving them that flexibility so they can improve on their time. And now they can become one of the best teams that you have. That's where all of that played. I was analytical in the fact of saying, hey, I know what this team needs. However, you got to the point now you being too inflexible, and now you're facing a lot of pushback and distrust. And so once I learned how to be flexible and more accepting, that team that I had the biggest challenge with is my number one performing team.
That is the truth right there. Well, I want to thank you. I think this has been a real insightful session for me. I'm sure everyone who has participated. I cannot believe that the 30 minutes has gone by so quickly. But you see the ticker at the bottom right there, wherever it is, says cisco.com/careers.
Yes.
Everyone go there. If you're looking for an opportunity,
Yes.
Cisco, that's the way to go. Cisco is a sponsor of this Ask Me session with Wayne White. Remember, this is the National Black MBA's 50th year celebration of us empowering visionaries. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot.